All right, back for part four, I think, something like that. I think Spider Man is where we left off. I'm going to scroll down. I did add one game to the end that I figured I should, um, which is Shredder's Revenge, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on Nintendo. I have Streets of Rage 4 in here. I also played Streets of Rage 2, and I was like, it's kind of the same. And plus, you have a ton of bosses in there. And I do remember that game pretty good bit. So added that one. Hopefully we can get through most of this and then have one video for ordering and ranking at the end. Be done. So Spider-Man, this is I think it's called Marvel's Spider-Man. It's a pretty generic name. PS4 could have been PS5 as well remade, but I have not played Spider-Man 2. I did start playing Spider-Man Miles Morales, which was really good, but I just never. I'm terrible about continuing to play games anymore. Once I start, I just kind of stop after a week. So anyway, this is Spider-Man 1 mostly. They may have appeared in the other games. Like I know Rhino, I think, is in the Miles Morales one early. So I do remember him. But it's been a while since I played it. I do forget a little bit of the story. I do know that Mr. Negative is like one of the primary antagonists, which is like the third one here. But Dr. Octopus is the first one we have. And Dr. Octopus is portrayed in this as being a friend of Peter's and Peter Parker. And he is, I think, just trying to do like good experiments and then eventually kind of goes nuts. Feels like what Spider-Man 2, the movie, was a little bit. So I'm sure that's based off some form of the comic. But the Dr. Octopus in here is a pretty sympathetic figure. You kind of feel bad, but he does end up going nuts. And the boss fight is fun. Like the boss fights in this game, I think the Spider-Man games took a lot of what Batman made a lot of good choices with in terms of fighting and stealth and all that stuff, and then Spider-Man used a lot of that, but added his Spider-Man style to it, so it's super fun. But yeah, Doctor Octopus is pretty much like he looks here. He's not so much the Doctor Octopus I've seen in like cartoons and stuff. He looks a little bit more friendly, that goes nuts. So he was really fun. Again, sympathetic villain. I will have him. Let's see, who do I have up here? I'll have him. Let's put him in Barely Not Awesome for now. There's a chance he can move up. I'll have some more things jostle around in my memory, I'm sure. Then we have Electro. I don't know that they did the whole Sinister Six thing specifically within the game, but there was like team ups and times you would fight a couple of them at once, I believe. Like I want to say Electro and Vulture, you might fight at once, but they do a good job with him. He's, has a lot of electricity powers, which can be super strong, but he's also vulnerable in some ways. And, you have to dodge. And I don't know if he flies around a whole lot. I know Vulture does. I think he does fly around a bit, but that battle felt like you were flying in air for both of them. But Electro was fun. I would not have him as high as Dr. Octopus. I'll have him in the cool enough category for now. Mr. Negative. So this is a character that I think is newer. Newer meaning after I watched Spider-Man stuff, so like 2000, I don't know. And he is also a bit of a friendly character at first. Like you meet him and he's leading the food kitchen or something and other stuff. But eventually you figure out he's got this power, and it's really cool how they do it in the game. It's like a void kind of world you go to or around, and he's got that, you see that he's negative of himself, which is a pretty cool thing. And the way, like, there's a fight here that's in this subway that's fun, and I think the fight at the end is pretty fun too when you last fight him. So yeah, I liked Mr. Negative. I'm going to have him in the Barely Not Awesome category. I thought he was a nice change of pace. Usually you're getting like a Green Goblin or something, over and over again, but he was different character with some depth to him. So you got a new story, which was fun, or at least new story for me. Rhino is this is the mechanized version of Rhino, not like his skin suit. He and Scorpion are both the like suit based guys here. A Vulture as well, but like Rhino is huge and goes at you and is intimidating, and you're diving out of the way, and you feel his pressure like when you're fighting him in the game. I think you might fight Scorpion and Rhino at the same time in like a, I don't know if it wasn't like a junkyard. It was more like maybe a shipyard or something like that. But yeah, Rhino was fun. I will have Rhino. I remember him a little bit more, so I'm going to have him up here. And then Scorpion does have his tail, which is intimidating, kind of comes out of nowhere. You have your spider sense, so you pick up on these things coming. But he was maybe a little bit below, but I don't know. We'll see. I'll have him in the cool enough category with some of these guys to start. Then we have Tombstone. So Tombstone felt a little more off to the side, like you run into him, but maybe not. He could have been part of the main story, but yeah, he was a fun take on him. I'm more used to Tombstone from like the Spider-Man animated series. It's like the only time I think I've seen him. This was a maybe more realistic version of him. You fight him in like a bike shop, and I thought it was a pretty fun fight. So I'm going to have him in the cool enough category as well. Good move. And then Vulture. Vulture, this is like the old looking Vulture, and he flies around all over the place, obviously, with his giant wings. I like the look of him and the take on him. It's fun to fight against him. He'll be in that cool category as well. So they did a pretty good job with them, with the villains in that game. I think there might have been one or two others, but I can't remember who they were. I might look it up afterward and see if there's anything that I missed. Like side characters. I think I probably missed some from the Batman games too, so maybe I'll look to make sure before I rank that I didn't miss any of those. Okay, so now we get to a game that's a little bit different in terms of villains, bosses, and the story's a little convoluted, and it's StarCraft. So I played StarCraft, the original. I played through the campaigns in the original and the story of Brood War. So the expansion pack, it's kind of depressing. Like you get to the end, I feel like I'd lost because Kerrigan had like taken over the Zerg, and when I was younger, I didn't really even like follow all the story. I'm sure I was more worried about beating the stages, but I didn't play the second game. I can't remember what the initial name was of it, but they've had some expansions, but StarCraft 2, and watched the story around that. And some of these characters are from that more so. But there's only a few that I've got listed here, 4 of them. There may have been more that are like side characters, but there's a little bit of ambiguity again in terms of like who's the good guy and bad guy in terms of changing sides or being infested or whatever. So it's tricky, but I'm going to kind of rate them from their villain perspective. So the first one we've got here is it Arcturus? So Arcturus Minx is like if I recall, the human. He's trying to like take over the human government essentially and become like the all-powerful dictator of humanity, and taking in a direction where it's warmongering and like taking out the Zerg, taking out the Protoss, all that. Might have had other motivations, but that's the one I remember. So he's a good big bad. He's in a lot of StarCraft 2 cutscenes, etc., and you get a good story. This is another game that if you were able to turn it into a movie or something, a lot of the story is very good, I think, of what they could do to start. I will have him in the barely not awesome category for now, and then we'll see if he needs to move as well. Then we have Edmund Duke. I don't remember too much about Edmund Duke other than it felt like he was somebody I trusted and then became a turncoat, or like I didn't like. You're effectively Jim Raynor is what I felt like. I mean, you're playing different campaigns, so you have different key characters. There's more heroes that I remember from this game than the villains. But he's one that it felt like he turned and went over to Minx or whatever and became a problem. I thought he was cool enough. He was a fun villain to have. You got to have those guys. Then we have Samir Duran or Duran. And so Samir, if I'm not mistaken, you feel like he's on your side, all good, but he's actually infested by the Zerg or something and like throws you out to dry. And I don't even think he's aligned with Kerrigan. I think he ultimately is part of like the broader brood or whatever that I'm going to mess up. But Samir is a pain in the butt and mean when he needs to be. I'll have him as cool enough as well. And then we have Kerrigan. So Kerrigan was a human. Kerrigan was infested, left for dead, essentially by the humans. And Raynor was very upset about that and then tries to save her, creates his own faction, and ultimately does. She becomes practically human again, and then has to become more Zerg again to take over the hive and prevent the end of humanity or something. So she goes by the Queen of Blades, but she has this like internal struggle with the Zerg where like the Zerg hive mind is trying to control her, but she's trying to take away that power from them. So it's pretty cool. And I do like that story in 2, the continuation of the initial story. And Kerrigan's really fun. Now, ultimately, she ends up being good in my mind. I mean, she's like a good guy, but the villain part of her I think is fun within the games, and I will have her as awesome. All right, that moves us to Street Fighter. A little like Mortal Kombat, it's who are the guys that you kind of fight toward the end of the game that you feel are not necessarily on the side of the good guys. There's probably some comics, cartoons, stories within the games. I've only played Street Fighter 1, which wasn't even good. It was like a crappy, I don't know if it was like an emulator or something, but I played it just to see what it was. Most of what I grew up with was Street Fighter 2. And there were like 30 versions of Street Fighter 2, of which I probably played like 3 of them. There's a version that has like Cammy and T-Hawk and DJ, the other like Jackie Chan kind of guy. But yeah, they are the games that I played. So there might be some newer ones that have other bigger bads, and I think there is. I remember seeing some like Akume or something. I don't remember his name, but I don't know him, so I didn't put him on here. These are from the games that I did play where it's like, oh, I'm getting to the end of the game and I've got to fight Balrog and Vega and Sagat and Sagat, whatever, and Bison. And then Zangief tended to be the bad as well, but it could just be the whole he's from Russia thing, the USSR timing of it. But anyway, we'll go first with Balrog. So Balrog's like the boxer. I always thought he was fun to fight. All these guys are pretty cool, I think. Balrog's the one that I'll say is cool enough to start. He is probably the least of them for me. Zangief is just the standard character. You can play as him to start, so you can fight these other guys as him. So he's not really aligned. I want to say maybe in the movie, the Jean-Claude Van Damme, not so good movie, but that he was maybe aligned to them. Don't know if that's canon. But Zangief is a little bit cooler. I'm going to have him in Barely Not Awesome. We've got Bison. So Bison is the big bad in the first games, and he's like got powers, and when I would fight him I would be stressed out. Don't know who I beat him with first. I was trying to think like, who was I best with, and I don't know, but I know when I did it was like, oh, thank goodness I finally got it. But I think Bison is one of the supremes. I think he's an awesome video game character. He was, I thought, expertly played by Raul Julia in the movie, even though the movie wasn't good. I liked him in that movie. And then I'm sure he's been in a lot of newer games too, hopefully. Then we have Sagat or Saget, not Bob Saget, so I'd say Sagat. He is a little bit of a desert Egyptian guy. Has the eye patch, got the taped up arms. He was tough to play too. He was like when I felt stressed. Balrog, I felt I could beat. Vega, I felt like I could beat. And when I got here, I was like, ooh, this is going to be tougher. And then you've got to get to Bison. Now, he's one level below Bison in terms of being tough. I'm going to have him in Barely Not Awesome. And then Vega. So Vega's got the like Wolverine type claws there. He's got his face protected. I want to say Spanish. But he'd jump on the side of cages and flip and like hit you. It's a fun fight. I never was like too intimidated by him. I felt like I had the timing down, but I thought he was a fun guy to fight, and matador looking character. I'll have him down in the Barely Not Awesome category too. We'll see where all those guys play out. All right, then we have Streets of Rage. Most of these are going to be from Streets of Rage 4. And I played Streets of Rage 2 and 3 on Sega. I don't remember 3 as much, so maybe I didn't rent it a whole lot. But 2 I played a good bit, and then 4 I had on the Switch and played a couple times. Super fun game. I love the gameplay. It's pretty much just a ramped up, better graphics, homage to the old ones. So I think they're really good, fun. Some of these bosses I don't really remember the stages and like when you fight them as much as I probably should, but it's been a bit. The commissioner is a police commissioner. Big buff dude. You're like going through the police station, taking out the guards and everything with their shields and tasers, etc. And so he's in his office. I don't remember if he's one that like what he fires, like a gun or a bazooka or something. But I think he charges at you. He's got golf clubs in there. You can get a golf club and go after him. But I thought he's pretty fun to fight against. I'd say he was, and I'm going to have to think through these others here. He's cool enough. Like I'd have him as cool enough to start. All right, then we have D.Va. D.Va is, I don't know if she's the first one that you fight, but D.Va has a snake. You see there, electric, or it's like an electric snake, shocks you. One thing I like about the game too is they often have henchmen that come out and fight you during the boss fight, so it's not just you against the boss always. But yeah, pretty cool fight there. Frustrating early on when I wasn't good, certainly, and like getting health, you have to like hit boxes and stuff to get giant chicken or apples or something to eat. But yeah, I thought she was cool enough as well. I'll probably have to figure out my differentiation here in a little bit. Then we have the DJ, DJ Kawashi. Kind of looks like what you would expect. So like he's got bright colors and flashes when he's shooting you. I think it's like electric stuff, obviously. But yeah, flies around. That's why he's standing that way. And I remember him being a little bit more fun. Like I'll put Barely Not Awesome, where the fight, I was like, oh, this is different, and the place he's in is different. And I thought it was challenging too, compared to some of the others. Then we get Estelle. So Estelle is like a commando, and this is going to be the case for a couple of these, I think. They're not necessarily bad guys. They are either against you because they think you're the problem, and then they change their mind and they become playable characters or partners. But at first you fight them, or you fight them a couple times. She's one you fight. She'll like, I think she's the one who like calls in backup, and like a helicopter or something will fly over a plane and bomb you, heat seek missiles or something. So she's got a lot of cool powers and weapons, etc. to fight. And I thought she was a pretty fun fight as well. So I'm going to have her up in the Barely Not Awesome category. Kobo or Kubo, Koobo. Early on, I remember him. I think ultimately you may fight him again, but like two of them. So I don't know if he's really like a boss, but you're usually fighting him as like a boss. He's a robot type dude, hard to knock down, hard to hit without getting hit yourself. Um, yeah, I thought he was fine. I'm gonna have him in the cool enough category. Then we have Max Thunder. So Max Thunder is an example of a good guy. He's a good guy, but you fight him. He kind of looks like a big wrestler, right? And you beat him up, and I don't know if he's brainwashed or whatever, but you get him out of his stuff. But he's strong. He'll like do wrestling moves on you, hard to deal with. And I'll have him in the barely not awesome category. I thought he's a fun fight. Okay, then we get to the bosses of Streets of Rage 4, Mr. and Mrs. Y, I think, or Mr. and Miss Y. Um, as you see, one is the Mr. is first, and he's got a gun. Miss is the sword wielding version, and when you fight them toward the end, there's one of them, and I can't remember which one. I think it's Mr. jumps into a giant robot where he's like, it's a platform game and you're in the, or whatever you want to call it, and he's like in the background shooting at you, and you've got to like knock his arms off or whatever while you're fighting Miss Y. She'll like stab you all the way across the screen. He will shoot you all the way across the screen. They are fast. It is not easy. I think it was a good challenge. Plus they're like kind of punk attitude, kids to me, like spoiled kids. Might not be the best way to describe them, but they were pretty fun. So I'm going to have them as barely not awesome as well. I thought they were both pretty fun, and it made me feel good to beat them. All right, we get to, and this is maybe more of somebody I remember from 2 as well. This is Nora. So Nora, kind of has that dominatrix look or whatever. She's got the whip. There's different versions of them that are like regular enemies, I think, but you do fight Nora as a boss, a mini boss, I believe. And so she's got, the electric whip that she'll hit you with. It's hard to dodge sometimes, at least for me. I'll jump into it, etc. And so I like her. I liked her, and I think she's memorable. So I'll have her in the barely not awesome category. And then we have Shiva, and Shiva is a dude that you save again. Like, I think it's a good guy once you beat him, but he's more of like a karate type buff dude. I'll have him as cool. I think he's better as like a character you get to play, but the boss fight I don't remember all that much, and I just remember it not being too challenging for me. I think. Okay, so that's Streets of Rage. Then we get to a game that's a little tricky for me, which is The Witcher. Witcher 3 is one of the best games of all time. It is like one of the coolest games to play. You just feel completely in the world when you're playing it. At least I did. And as Geralt, or Geralt, some people pronounce it both ways, but he is a cool guy to be. And then you've got, companions and things along the way that are fun to be around. The villains don't stand out as much to me because the world you're in is like the real good thing. And the villains, like the actual monsters you run across and stuff, are just part of the world, the ghosts and all that. And it's like super creepy and it's cool. But occasionally you do run across like individuals who run into things, and then there is an overarching big bad that you do fight. And so we'll go through these and see if I can remember who's doing what, and I might misrepresent some. But I also will say I haven't played any other Witcher games. I also didn't play the Witcher expansions. There's like 2 or 3 expansions for Witcher that are very well regarded and like considered totally part of the regular game now. But I never went back and played those. So some of these I'll just flat out say I don't remember, and it's just because, again, I fought them, but I don't remember what I did. First one, as an example, Caleb Menge. I don't remember him much. He's listed as like a main villain in the game, but I don't know when I ran across him if he, put on armor and started a fight, or if he was just somebody who backstabbed me. I don't really recall. Then we have Karen Thier. I think more of like an ice monster type guy. I don't think he's like the main bad, and I want to make sure I don't get those mixed up, but I don't think he is. I might, but I'll go back and correct if I forget. So he's more of like a guy. I just remember finding it like in a castle or something, in a maybe in a dungeon or something where you're fighting him. I thought he was pretty fun to fight, though. If I recall, I'm going to have him in the barely not awesome category. I thought his look was cool, even in the game. All right, we have the crones. So the crones are three very ugly women that actually use magic to look beautiful, and then you see them for their real faces. They're in like a bog. It's real creepy, and then you find them and you finally figure them out, and you have to get rid of them. And I thought the crones were pretty cool. I thought it was a nice. They are memorable, like compared to some of the others. I think they're memorable. So I'm going to have them in the barely not awesome category as well, and I'll try to even some of those out here in a minute. All right, now we get to some of the ones that get a little more generic to me because I can't remember who's who, but I think Aroden here is the main bad. So if I recall the final battle, which I do remember the final battle, but I think it was Aroden. And they have, it's called the Wild Hunt. He like leads this wild hunt. It's from a magical dimension or something. And you're fighting him in this like stormy weather place with like in a circle, and he disappears and reappears and shoots orbs at you and does a bunch of stuff. His presence in the game to me is more impactful than the actual battle. The battle's fine, but there's instances where like his troops or whatever he sends through portals come and like destroy a lot of the people you are around or know, or it's a huge fight and like it's bad and you feel the weight of that. And I think that's pretty cool. So I will have him up in the awesome category. I think he was really cool for the game. And again, if I just happen to forget that he wasn't, it was really Nithril or one of these others, then, but I don't think it is. I think it's Aroden. All right, this is Ice Giant. Ice Giant is just one of those generic giants that I recall because he has this like anchor and he's swinging it around and trying to hit you. And it was like one of the first boss fights I recall where I was like, oh gosh, I'm in over my head and I need to figure out how to use my powers and all that to like contend with him. But I thought he was fine, so I'll have him in the cool enough. He's a little generic, but fun enough fight. Okay, Imlerith, I think, and I'm going to go ahead and put him in the don't remember much. I think it's because he might be from the expansion pack. He might be like one of the big bads. He looks like it from the expansion. If I'm wrong again, sorry. But yeah, I don't really recall him. And Nithril is the same. So these two I don't really recall, but they look pretty hardcore. So I'm surprised I don't recall them. Unless they were like in a world or part of the world that I didn't have to beat and skipped them. But I have a feeling they were the expansion bosses and I don't know for sure. I might look that up and let you know later. But yeah, can't remember them. Or I'll see it and be like, oh yeah, that guy. Now I do remember the next couple. So the Royal Griffin, I think, is the first boss you really fight. And it is a griffin that is this big thing. And I remember being terrified before I even got to it because I'm like, what the hell is this thing? So, you know, Witcher 3, you are in the environment early in games. I don't feel confident because I don't know how to fight well. I don't know how to use powers. You may not have all your powers. And then you're told you got to go like get this thing. You have a contract to go take out this or get something from it, a fleece or something. I can't remember if that's that specific one, but yeah, it was terrifying. And it's flying around and then it's like on the ground, like pecking at you and like swooping at you with its wings. You feel like intimidated because it's huge, but it's really just teaching you how to fight the bosses. I thought he was cool enough. I mean, it was a fun like initial boss fight to get into the game. And then the last one here is Wolf King. So there's a lot of wolves and, monsters and creatures in this game all over the place. Wolf King, I remember looking really mangy like this. And so that's like pretty well how I recall him. And it was creepy and weird, and it's kind of like jarring to have him attack you and get close and stuff. So I'd have him in the cool enough category with those guys as well. So The Witcher, again, not based off of its strength is not based off of like bosses and things. It doesn't have to be. It's got other stuff. All right, that takes us to Zelda. I think we should be able to get through the rest here. So Zelda and then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then we'll have it the next time to rank and put in tier order. So played the first Zelda, the original Zelda, played Zelda 2 Link to the Past, which I remember a couple of these characters from a little bit. Played Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask on the 64, skipped it for a long time, and then came back for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. There's been good games between those, I know, between the 64 and the Switch that I just didn't play, so I'm sure there's other lead villains here that are important, but I just didn't play the game. So the stages are always awesome in Zelda, are important, and the puzzles, and then sometimes for these villains I get disappointed, and sometimes I think they're awesome. So we should see a good dichotomy here between the two. And then some, at least one I can think of, you don't actually really fight, but it is a threat. So the first one is Baronade. Baronade is from Ocarina of Time, Jabu Jabu's Belly. You got a lot of these like jellyfish type things floating around. I believe it spins around and shoots you with these little tentacles. I didn't love it. I hate to say it's probably kind of lame for me compared to some of the others. Is okay, but there's no personality to it, right? It just looks like a giant floating thing. So I get to the end of Jabu Jabu, which was kind of a weird level and creepy, and maybe it's appropriate for that level, but it's not one of my favorites. Like I would hardly remember what it is if I didn't think about it. All right, Bongo Bongo. Bongo Bongo is in the Shadow Temple, Ocarina of Time as well. Creepy temple, scary place. And then you get to the end, and this guy like uses his hands to beat this drum and pop you up. Tries to smash you. Got to shoot him in the eye. Creepy, weird. I don't know that he's one of the best. I'll have him in cool enough because part of me is like, yeah, he's interesting and the level's fun, but I don't want to give too much credit for the level. If I was fighting like Bongo Bongo in the Forest Temple, would I really care too much? I don't know. All right. Next one, we go to Colgera, Tears of the Kingdom. So the second one. The difference between Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom is instead of just being in Hyrule on the ground, you have the underground and then you have the sky. And getting to Colgera is one of the coolest things, I thought, because you have to like just keep going higher and higher in the sky, climbing platforms and using the wind and using these ships to bounce up. And then it's in this like vortex, and you're fighting in this vortex, and it will go through like a portal and then come out another direction. You've got to keep shooting it in these like ice chest area or whatever. There's 3 of them or something to him, 3 or 4 that you got to break, and then you finally kill him, and then it frees up that beast or whatever part of the world. I can't remember specifically what you win. And then you can also fight him again in the underground. They go to the underground. Man, the underground's super creepy because it's completely dark until you get the blooms that show you the light. You can run into them just out of nowhere. So it's kind of cool. I thought it was a fun fight. I will have him in the barely not awesome category. He reminds me a little bit, honestly, of like a Shadow of the Colossus, like Phalanx from that. Not as cool, but just a little bit. Dark Link. So Dark Link, I feel like was in Link 2, or within Zelda 2 and Link to the Past. And yeah, I'm almost sure of it. And then I ran across him more in Ocarina of Time. You're in the Water Temple. Water Temple is just a freaking slog. And then you get to this like peaceful room in a tree, and then you see this like small silhouette, but it ends up being formed a little bit more cleanly as you get closer, and it's Dark Link. And Dark Link was super stressful for me because I didn't really know what to expect, and it was like a mini boss, and most mini bosses in Ocarina of Time, it's like, oh yeah, this is tough, but not that tough. I could not figure out because he's countering everything you do, and you've got to figure out what are the things you can do that he can't do. So it's like used Din's fire maybe, or throw bombs. I can't remember specifically, but he was such a cool villain. He's also in like Super Smash Brothers, I think. So it's cool to see him there. I really like him. I'm gonna have him in the awesome category. All right. Gotta get my dragons clean here because they're clear here. There's two of them. I gotta remember. So the first one is Demon Dragon. I think this is like Ganon, not Ganon specifically, but like his dragon from Tears of the Kingdom. These things are enormous. They're flying through the air like it's legit. You're not like in a controlled environment. You're literally in the open world. You could just as well fall into the ground. And it's fun to be on the dragons. You can get, depending on which one, and I can't remember if you're like on him, if you can get electrocuted or poisoned or whatever, but he's intimidating and comes after you. It's pretty crazy fight. I think it's pretty fun. I'll have him as barely not awesome. All right, then we have Ganon. Ganon's in a lot of games. Sometimes Ganon's a pig. Sometimes he looks like a Gerudo. Um, Ocarina of Time is probably the most prevalent place that I remember him, or the most like clear final boss battle when you climb the tower and you're fighting him with the organ, and he's in the middle and shooting you with stuff, and you've got the platforms that fall, and you got to keep hitting his glowing orb back. He turns into Giant Ganon if you beat him there, and then you got to escape. Also in Tears of the Kingdom and um, was he in? Well, obviously he was in one, but yeah, I think he was just in the newer ones, one and Ocarina of Time that I recall. So Ganon is really cool, really menacing, always like a scary figure. I think like Ocarina of Time's my best of him, like kidnapping Zelda and you having to like go to the future and find him. So, but I will say, Tears of the Kingdom and his even the original Zelda, like he's super memorable. You remember like the pig version of him. So he's an all time to me, a supreme villain. All right. Okay. Now we get to Gecko Snapper. So this would be like a mini boss that I just don't remember much of. Let me think for a second. Looks like it would have been in like Majora's Mask. And I don't really remember him. So I'm going to have to say, don't remember him. Yeah, look, I mean, at the animation, it's not Breath of the Wild or anything. So, all right. Then we go to Goat. Goat is in Majora's Mask. A lot of the premise in Majora's Mask is you are trying to get masks for these villains in these temples, and Goat is one of them. It's an interesting fight. You've got to turn into a Goron, and you've got to chase him, catch up to him, and hit him with your spikes. He's running and he's kicking up rocks at you. So it's a fun fight. I don't know, though, that he's like super cool himself. I will have him as cool enough and not take him too far because I enjoyed the fight, but it wasn't like he's attacking or turning around and coming at you or anything. All right, who's this guy? Gomez. Man, it looks familiar. And I don't remember if it's in like the Spirit Temple. Disappears, comes back. I don't remember him much. I'm gonna have to put him there until I unless I can think about it. It feels like a monster you would shoot with like a light arrow, in Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. I don't feel like it's in Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. Guyborg. Guyborg is in Majora's Mask. It is in the water world of Majora's Mask, and I was terrified of this darn thing when I fought it, because you're like on a platform and then you got water all around, and this is like the quintessential water guy that scares me, because when I get in the water I don't have control. This thing's moving all over the place, just attacking, etc. And it took me a while to figure out like how do you beat this thing. It's killing me, and I'm using potions, etc. Just it's stressful because I just felt out of control. So I'm gonna have him as Barely Not Awesome because he did his job of freaking me out. All right, this is King Dodongo. King Dodongo from Ocarina of Time. So King Dodongo is giant Dodongo. You throw bombs into his mouth, he just chases you around. I didn't find him to be the most interesting boss in the world. I thought it was a little boring. I'm going to actually have him as kind of lame. Sorry. All right, Majora. Majora is the evil mask from Majora's Mask. Majora takes on forms at the end. This is like form 1, I think, and then it gets a body and becomes more powerful. Super creepy. Just the whole mask thing was creepy. The game was creepy. Much darker vibe to me than Ocarina of Time, even though like Ocarina of Time in the future had, the castle and everything was really dark. But Majora's Mask just felt eerie, the whole thing. And Majora was a big part of that, trying to take over the moon and all the other things. I thought Majora's Mask was actually a really good, different villain than Ganon. It's like, how many times are you going to keep throwing Ganon at us? So they came up with something different, and it was like the mask that the Skull Kid was wearing. So it's cool. All right. This is Marbled Goma. So Tears of the Kingdom, I believe. You're in a room. I think this is the one where you're in a room and like with a dome, and it's like going up and over or something and coming down and then attacking you. It was a pretty fun fight. I don't remember too much of it other than that, and I don't remember if it was like I think it was like the final boss of one of the sections, but I don't remember if someone had him was cool enough. All right, we have Master Koga. So in Breath of the Wild, as well as Tears of the Kingdom, more so in Tears of the Kingdom, do I remember Master Koga. The Yiga clan is a big thing throughout the world. Like, you will run into a passerby who looks innocent, and then they'll end up being a Yiga and come out and start hacking at you. In Tears of the Kingdom, they have like bases in the underground where it's really dark that you'll run into, and then eventually you can find Master Koga as well, and fight him. I think he's kind of fatter in at least one of the games. You see that a little bit here, but just a bit of a character and funny to fight. So I will have him in the cool enough category. I didn't think it was super hard or anything, but he's just a fun side character to have in the game. All right, I mentioned one that we don't actually fight. That is the moon. You don't really fight the moon. But if you look at the moon looks terrifying. The moon looks terrifying because in Majora's Mask, the moon is getting ready to hit the Earth. It has 3 days before it's going to hit the Earth, and each day the moon gets closer. And then you reset time. That's the whole thing you can do as you use your ocarina, go back in time and start your time over, and you build on what you've done in the past or learn lessons, those types of things. But if you watch it and don't do things the right way, the moon will hit the Earth and destroy it. Even when you finally win the game, you've got to get these like giants to hold it up, and it seems like it's close to hitting it. So the moon is very menacing and terrifying, and I think it's awesome. You don't fight it, but it loomed over you the whole game. and I thought it was super creepy and cool. All right, who's this blob here? Miragia? Miragia? Uh, Man, I don't remember Miragia. Looks like a Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom boss, but again, I'm just not gonna dwell on it too much. I got to think and see if I remember it later. All right, we have Morpha. Morpha is the boss for the Water Temple in Ocarina of Time. It's like an amoeba type water thing, and it shoots this ball at you. This is the easiest boss in the game if you do it right, and I think I did it right the first time without even knowing it, where it'll shoot at you, and if it gets stuck in the corner, you just hit it a billion times, it's dead. When you first start the fight, I thought it was going to be way worse. Like, you're there looking at it from the perspective of the monster, I believe, and you're like, oh my gosh, again, this water thing. I'm terrified. What's going to happen? And then it ends up being pretty disappointing. I'm actually going to have this in the not so good. I thought it was a huge letdown for the end of that level. I just wanted it to be more, especially when the camera was coming. I was like, this thing could be terrifying. And it was just a finger that sticks out and shoots this ball at you. I didn't like it. All right. Muktarok. So Muktarok is Tears of the Kingdom. You are up on a platform fighting him. He looks pretty harmless. He's like a little glob, and he can transform his shape. He turns into a shark. He actually like makes the ground like an oil-based thing, and then attacks you and as a shark. It's pretty cool. Might turn into some other stuff too. I thought he was kind of fun for being like a little dweeb looking thing. But I will have him as Barely Not Awesome. This is Adolwa or Adolwa. Not sure. I've never heard it pronounced. From Majora's Mask, the first like forest temple. It's a jungle warrior mask. You're fighting a jungle warrior. It's like a sword and shield and real agile. It was fun enough, but I'm gonna have it as the cool enough. It wasn't like something super spectacular. Then we have Phantom Ganon. So I am separating out Phantom Ganon from normal Ganon because Phantom Ganon has some different iterations. Phantom Ganon exists in Ocarina of Time and the Forest Temple. It comes through different paintings, and you have to see which one turns around or which one keeps coming and shoot the one that keeps coming. And then eventually you take it out. Strangely, though, I'm surprised that I had it overtaken. I think it got overtaken within Tears of the Kingdom by the gloom, and I think so. The gloom, and I've talked about a little in the enemies, is like one of my most feared enemies of all time. You're just in the game, all of a sudden the sky gets a little bit darker, and this blob starts to follow you. These hands come out of the ground with eyes on them, and it comes fast. It's faster than you, and it is grabbing you and attacking you. Well, if you hit it enough, it turns into Phantom Ganon, and then you're fighting Phantom Ganon again, and it's truly Ganon type fight like the other Phantom Ganons. But the combination of all that, including him as the Gloom Hands, is pretty sweet. I will have that as awesome as well. Okay, a few more here for Zelda, and then we'll get to Turtles, hopefully in time. It's a Turtles in Time joke. All right, this is Queen. No. This is other. Okay, so I split the Phantom Ganons. Good, I split the Phantom Ganons. This is the Phantom Ganon from Ocarina of Time. I just did that because I considered them two different entities in my head when I pulled up the pictures. So this Phantom Ganon, I will have close to him. I enjoyed the fight. I thought it was cool. I'll have him as just a tier below for now. All right, then we have Queen Goma. So this is like the first one you fight in the Deku Tree, Ocarina of Time. Creepy as heck when you first start, because you're like, I don't know what's going on. You're just walking around this like spider's lair looking thing, and then you look up and you see this division symbol and a little eye, and all of a sudden it starts attacking you. it's up on the ceiling. I don't like things that are up on the ceiling when you're having to look up and then still not know what's going on around you. It drops other little spiders that come after you. I thought Queen Goma was pretty fun for an initial boss for sure. I'll have it as Barely Not Awesome. And then we have Queen Gibdo. So the Gibdos are those like creepy mummy looking things. This is out in the desert. She is terrifying. When I faced her, like you faced her like twice, but out in the desert when you can't see anything, she's like intimidating, coming after you. Has some pretty tough attacks. So I thought she was pretty cool too. I will have her in the Barely Not Awesome category. It says Twin Mold. So Twin Mold is Majora's Mask. It's in the desert. Super cool because you can either fight Twin Mold as yourself, little Link, and it is this huge, huge thing. It looks like a Thresher Maw from Mass Effect. And it attacks you coming out of the ground. Like it'll spiral up and come down and that kind of thing. Or you can face it with, I don't know what the mask is, Stone Mask or something. It turns you big. Colossus Mask would make more sense, something like that. So you become big and it becomes much more manageable because then Twin Mold is not very big and you can attack it much easier. But a fun one as well. So I will have that in the Barely Not Awesome category. Then we have Twin Rova. So this is when the two witches come together, fight them in the Spirit Temple, I believe. They're a little bit nicer and not Ocarina of Time. They're in Majora's Mask. They own like a potion shop, I think. And you take pictures from it or something, get like a boat cruise. I don't know why I remember that. But first one, Spirit Temple, Ocarina of Time, you're fighting them as fire and ice. You have to like gather the energy from one in the shield and then shoot the other one with it or deflect it or whatever. Fun battle with the boss, and I will say that's Barely Not Awesome as well. So some good fights there. And then this is Volvagia from the Fire Temple in Ocarina of Time. This is why I had to make sure the other one wasn't that case. But this one is pretty fun too. You're using kind of whack-a-mole to try to hit it. It'll pop out and like spin its hair at you, and then it'll fly. The Fire Temple is pretty cool. The boss room that it's in. So I know I'm having a lot of Barely Not Awesome, but they'll be split here in a minute. But yeah, pretty cool. And then the last one here is Wart. Wart is from, I think it's Tears of the Kingdom. Not Breath of the Wild, but could be wrong. You got to shoot the eye. It's got a lot of stuff on it that shoots down at you. I thought it was cool. I mean, it wasn't anything. It may be okay. I'm actually going to have it as okay. I don't remember the rest of Wart too much, being too difficult. All right, so that takes us to the Turtles with our last group here. I won't give the lore of all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You could probably associate to other games because I have played other games. So the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, TMNT 2 and 3, the arcade game, probably some other iterations of those. And then this is Shredder's Revenge that these pictures are from, and that's where I'm going to primarily remember most of the boss fights. One of them's a double because they're fighting together, and that's the only time you fight them, and I couldn't find a picture of them separate, so I just said we will do Ground Chuck and Dirtbag together. All right, Baxter Stockman. Baxter Stockman is a fun fight. If I recall, I wasn't too intimidated by him. He does bring up some minions and tries to shoot you with his gun, but he brings up some lasers, these huge 3 lasers, and they fire across the screen. If you get hit by those, you're toast, or it takes you out pretty good. So he's pretty tough. And I always liked Baxter. I thought he was a fun character as well, so I think they did a good job with him. Put him in the Barely Not Awesome. Bebop. So Bebop's the first boss. You do fight him multiple times. He comes back with Rocksteady. He's in a car. The whole point of the game, I think, is that they're building Krang back, his body. So they have the head, and the turtles are trying to get it, but then it gets stolen every time, and these guys get away, that type of thing. But Bebop is like one of the first ones you fight, and I don't remember him being very tough at all in this game. It's not a reflection of him as the character, but I think he's just kind of cool. Like it was okay, I'd say actually. You just not much to it. Uh, okay, Captain Zorax. This is the Triceratops people. Uh, you fight a lot of the Triceratops. They're annoying in the level because they're running across the stage with their horns, and you get attacked. It's tough. Um, his boss fight, though, I don't really remember what stands out all that much. Um, and I worry that I'm like getting it mixed up with others, but I want to say he is the one where there's like boulders that fall from the ceiling. Because yeah, General Trager is who I would have thought does that, but that's like on an elevator. So I think Captain Zorak's that. And maybe it's Slash that I'm thinking of that does that. So there's a couple, and I just don't remember him that much to like give a good opinion. Chrome Dome, I remember because Chrome Dome was tough. Chrome Dome was probably the hardest or second hardest boss I remember in the game. Um, Fights you just on a platform, a lot of foot soldiers and stuff coming out, but he also is different because he becomes, and this is from like another Turtles game. They do great with like the homages to other games in these, and he's the screen. So like it's his visor, and he's like using his hands to punch you or to shoot missiles at you, and you're trying to pick up the foot soldiers and throw it at the screen, right, to hit him in the face, which is fun. So I thought that was a really cool battle. I'm going to have him up toward the awesome category. Thought it was a fun battle. All right, General Trag, like I said, you fight him on an elevator. He's got his rock soldiers that come and support him. He's got his big gun. He's kind of cool looking. There's a fun dynamic fighting on an elevator, etc. So I'll have him in the cool category. Ground Chuck and Dirtbag, again, you fight them together. They are, Ground Chuck uses his horns. I think they can actually hit each other, if I remember, like stun each other if they mess up. But yeah, you'll see Ground Chuck like running across the stage. I think he fires some sort of weapon. Dirtbag will dig under the ground and come out. He has his helmet that he shoots a light from. They were all right. It was a fun enough battle, but I would just say it was okay. Like I didn't really remember it too much. All right, Krang. Krang takes a couple of different iterations. One is in his body here. I didn't find it all that difficult, surprisingly, but I think you fight Shredder in the same level, which is why. And then you ultimately fight him as the Statue of Liberty, of all things. So takes over like the Statue of Liberty or some iteration of it, and I remember him shooting lasers and stuff from that. But he's a fun character for sure. I enjoy his personality in the game, and I will have him. I'll have him in the awesome category as well for now, even though the boss fight wasn't like super great. Leatherhead. Leatherhead, I want to say he's at the end of the zoo level, and he has these grates. There's like 6 or 8 or 9 or something grates, and he'll like go into the grate and come out. Didn't find it all that difficult. I remember him being pretty easy, or like the timing of him jumping out and everything wasn't super hard. So I thought it was fine. I think he's a cool enough character that I'll have him in the okay section as well. Metalhead. So Metalhead, just like in the Turtles show, probably the comics, he's originally a villain and then realizes the error of his programming and becomes a friend of them. I think he says something like that when you meet him. But he's shooting, missiles at you, targeting you. I don't think it was too hard of a battle. His personality doesn't really stand out. I'll have it as okay, to be fair. Rat King. So Rat King is kind of an obscure character. He's got they say he's got like 2 bandanas on his face. I feel like they said that. I wasn't expecting too much from this guy, but he was a lot better as a boss than I thought. So he has his horn or whatever he blows to make rats attack you, and they come in waves, and they'll like run across the screen, and they'll go like up or down or whatever. They're hard to dodge, and if you get hit by one, like they'll start gnawing at you. And then he's got his own fight. And then, the cool thing about this game, too, I should have said, they're like talking at you the fight during the fight, so you're getting their personality while you're fighting. And then you as a turtle, get to do your smack talking too. But Rat King is one I would also have up toward the top up here of coolness in that game. All right, Rocksteady. So Rocksteady, partners with Bebop a lot. He's got a big gun in this game. You fight him second alone, and then they're in like a turtle destroyer or something vehicle. And then they have a battle together. Bebop and Rocksteady, like we did with Ground Chuck and Dirt Nap up there. And so, or Dirtbag. Rocksteady is a fun character. I like his personality more. I will have him up in the cool enough section, and he could move depending. All right, Shredder. So Shredder takes a couple forms, and I did not split them out here. Obviously, Super Shredder is the other one. Shredder, you fight twice, once as Shredder, once as Super Shredder. I was very intimidated in the Super Shredder fight. Like, he does a lot of stuff. There's a lot of like, he puts this force field around him. He like shoots these flames. I got a good handle on it though, like the timing of it, and actually got better at it. Shredder, the first fight, you fight after Krang, and I thought it was tougher. I feel like he created hallucinations or holograms of himself or something. He was fast. So the last fight was tough too, but the first fight I thought was tougher, but has an awesome personality. He was a great boss to fight. I would have him up in my Supreme category as well. Like, he's just a super fun boss to have in that game. Then we have Slash. I think this is where the boulders and things were falling, because it was like the caveman, old school world. You're like back in time. He's a fun character. He kind of, dumb, attacks you with his swords, etc. I don't remember too much about it to say like he was awesome, but I would say he was cool enough. We have Tempestra. So Tempestra is a character I don't remember too much from the cartoon, but the thing I remember most about Tempestra is she conjures Tonka and Razor from like the Ninja Turtles movie. I don't know. They're not like bosses unto themselves, so I didn't include them in here, but they are brought up by her, which was pretty fun. She herself, though, like her powers and things, I don't remember too much other than like maybe putting a force field up. So she's just kind of okay. And then Wingnut. So Wingnut is the last one on our list here. Again, before I hop off this one, I will go back and check to see if there's like characters I missed that I probably should have included. And then we'll do the ranking and go from there. But Wingnut is a different type of battle within the game, because you're flying, and he is like flying up the screen sideways, all these things to try to attack you as, I think, missiles, other stuff. Pretty challenging and fun, and I'm going to have him in the Barely Not Awesome category, because I thought he was a fun fight. Little like Baxter in some regard, they're both fun. But yeah, super, super cool there. All right, so that gets us to the end of this. Probably ended up being like 300 or so bosses. We've got a lot of movement to do, I'm sure. I will check, see if I missed any. Then we'll go usually from the bottom up and get them organized down here, but we will rank them all. And we will see you next time and do that.